I was minimizing who I was believing the lies, I wasn't walking in my true identity, and that inhibited my ability to jump on the couch when the Floor is Lava song comes on. And now I am okay with jumping on the couch every now and again when the Floor is Lava song comes on, because our kids need that joy. I need that joy. I got to get back to that inner child.
Or do like snow angels, you know?
In the snow?
The snow without.
I did that
in shorts
a few weeks ago.
I know.
I did shorts only.
We were having like sliding competitions through the house, like how far you could like with socks like slide.
To be fair, I had just
like
gotten out of the sauna, and then I jumped in the snow and did snow angels.
I'm still proud of you because you hate cold, and that was remarkable.
Was awesome.
I stuck my foot in. That's as much as I could do.
I was actually walking around in bare feet in the snow.
I know.
Which was
like
good.
a hero.
Yeah. It was good.
Like joy. I mean, joy.
Why not?
Why not?
Why wouldn't I?
Why wouldn't you? He was eating sugar, guys. He was eating.
Yeah,
he would go. There was this place called the Mercantile.
Oh, okay? I actually ate a little bit of sugar. I didn't eat as much sugar as you did, but I did eat sugar. Not that we're comparing, but.
Nobody did.
I won't lose hope in the night. When the fire's glowing dim, I'll just let go and I'll try. Help me walk this road and find my way back home. Find my way back home. Find my way home.
Welcome back to the Famous at Home podcast. We're talking today about joy. Joy.
There's songs about joy.
Okay, I just want to say
I'm not going
this
to be the one to sing it for you.
as we get started. I would love for you to do that. Can you sing?
Friends that could sing it for you.
We can't sing.
We can't sing.
Well, actually, we can. And we sing in the shower.
I don't really.
We let it out every now and again.
It's not my gift.
Definitely not my gift.
You know, but
I enjoy music.
I love music.
Joy. Today we're talking about joy. I have been infused with joy in the last couple of months, years. I don't know, maybe a year. So let me tell you about joy.
Tell us your journey with joy.
I have not been a very joyful person. I was not a very joyful person for a season of my life. I was joyful as a kid. And I had to get in touch with my inner child again. That's what needed to happen. Somewhere along the way, my inner child was stolen, and I needed to reclaim him.
Yes.
That little boy that lost his joy.
Yes.
And I did that, and I am much better for it. My wife is better for it. My kids are better for it.
We are. We're so much better.
So what we're talking about, we're in season 3. If you're new to the podcast, we are talking about living beyond the matrix. In other words, the big question we're asking ourselves is, why are we doing what we do as families? And in that process, I looked at 150 years of family over the last 150 years, how it's changed in the Western world, and did a little bit of an overview on that a couple weeks ago. But out of that episode, we decided to really start talking about some of the things that people are longing for, that we hear families longing for. We talked about rest. We talked about simplicity and living a simple life. Last week, we talked about celebrating the good. In other words, just living in abundance and being present in who we are. And then this week, now we're talking about joy, because we hear this a lot. Like, if I could just be more joyful, if we could just be happier, if we could just not, always be so humdrum like that. And I say that because that was me. And so that's what we're talking about, is joy. How do we find joy in our lives? As we talk about that, one of the most joyful things in our lives right now is doing Field Experience and Tender and Fierce. Oh. And you can now register for the next cohort. That's cohort 2. They both start in April. Of Tender and Fierce. That's what Christy leads for the women. I lead the coaching cohort for men called the Field Experience. These are they're very joyful. And we find that the people going through them are more joyful. And that's something that we want you to join. Prayerfully consider it. Check it out. It is in the show notes today. We would love to have you be a part of these next cohorts. These are ongoing, by the way. So this cohort, 3-month cohort, you have to go through that first. But if you want to and you choose to, you can go to the point where you come and we have retreats and all the things. But the goal here is to disciple a new generation of families, number one, for family revival in your own family, but number two, that we're discipling and coaching a generation of families to be able to live beyond the matrix, live a life that's different, to be living letters, as Paul writes about in 2 Corinthians chapter 3, to be living letters in the world, to be salt and light in the world around us, and to build for the kingdom of God. And if you want to be a part of that, we would love to have you be a part of that.
I'm going to read a little portion of something that someone sent me. This is a woman who was in one of the first Tender and Fierce cohorts. She said, Christy, it's been several months since the first cohort of Tender and Fierce, but I wanted to share with you where I find myself. Some days are still hard, but I think I have come out of the basement, so to speak. We talk about a ladder and the bottom rung being the basement. I have been laughing, a missed feeling. I find myself coming back to the tools you equipped me with. I thank God you had the wisdom and words to speak, and I had the ears to listen. The song Find Your Way Home has become an anthem of sorts for me, even though it wasn't directly connected to Tender and Fierce. It has closed the loop for me, and I continue to find my way back to the Father, myself, my husband, and my sons. Thank you for your faithfulness. I have attached a link for a Google video. If you have time, it would be my pleasure to show you through my eyes that you and the Lord have helped me to open the joy and blessing God gave me in 2024. And she sent a link to a video of her sons and her life, her family, to our song, Find Your Way Home. And I cried watching it because I saw through the eyes of another woman who wasn't able to see the joy and the goodness in her own life because she was on the bottom rung, who started to see it again. And it was just video clip after video clip to the song of the goodness of God in her life. It's like her son, walking or throwing something, and her husband and her. And it just, I was like, I'm not like teary. I'm crying watching this. It meant so much to me because it was like, again, we talked about this last week. It's like the word of your testimony. Like when you see it in someone else's life and they have the boldness to declare with their own mouth the goodness of God over them, the joy in their own life. Because I actually think people hide it. I think people, once they find it, they're not sure how to express it because it feels like either people will just kind of like, dismiss it or actually be offended by it. And we found that even in our own life and our healing journey as you encounter people, you have friends, you have family that are at a very different spot in their journey as you are. And it is often difficult when you are on one of those bottom rungs to celebrate the good in other people's lives because this ugly little thing called jealousy and envy kicks in. And it's hard to be happy for those that are celebrating the joy in their life when you can't find it in yours. And so we actually steal joy from people's lives who want to express it. And it's like, oh, well, that must be nice. I'm sure you've heard that comment. Maybe you've made that comment where like, oh, I really wish we had that. That must be, happy for you guys.
Happy
but like
for you.
You feel that. It's like, you're not, or maybe you are really trying to be. And so I think this not just dampens our joy and takes from our joy, but it also prevents us from wanting to declare the goodness of God, the joy of God, because it feels too vulnerable, too frivolous, too risky to say it out loud, because what if other people poo-poo on it? And you find that a lot in life. You will get around people where the spirit of complaining and negativity come in and like a suction, like just whoop, like suck it all out of the room. And then when the opposite is true, when you are around people that are full of the joy. Mm-hmm. And joy of the Lord is not circumstantial. Yeah. It is actually a gift of God. And
it's a fruit. Yeah.
It is a fruit of the Spirit. And it is something that can be being cultivated in our lives and we talk about this a lot. It actually goes hand in hand with suffering. Mm-hmm. It goes hand in hand
with grief.
And so you find, life tip, find those that have suffered greatly, and you
still
will
have joy.
find their greatest joy. And I said this on the podcast, I think a while ago, because I was so struck by this statement, but like, you can only meet a person to the level at which you've met yourself. And I find that with those that have suffered, that those that have been through great trial and great suffering, they have had to go to the depths of themselves, and therefore they're able to meet you at this very deep place. And even in, what we do with Tender and Fierce, you actually have to have access to both sides. You cannot just falsely, try to build this tower of joy when you have not dug down to the depths. And this is where it is this full spectrum. Like, you have to have access to the full spectrum of emotion in order to access joy.
Well, and I think what's fascinating about it too, scripturally speaking, is that in 1 John 4, it says, we love because he first loved us. And the fruit of the Spirit, they are intertwined. Yeah. So it's the fruit of the Spirit. It's a plural predicate. So you cannot, they're not the fruits of the Spirit. A lot of times we say the fruits of the Spirit. It's not plural. It's plural predicate. It is the fruit of the Spirit. Meaning there are 9 fruit there in Galatians chapter 5, but they're all intertwined. You're not going to grow in one without growing in the other. But the first one to come is love, and then joy. And in order to grow in joy, you must have experienced the love of the Father. And if you have shut your heart down to experiencing love, or to experiencing, and again, Ephesians says, I pray that you might know, Paul writes, beyond head knowledge, beyond knowledge, the love of God for you. There's a lot of us that go, yeah, God loves me. I understand that he loves me. Yes, I know I'm loved, but we know it intellectually, but we don't experience it for ourselves. We don't allow ourselves to sit in the joy of the Lord, to experience the love that he has for us. And, I saw you as a daughter, even just a moment ago, reading that email, as a daughter of God, just crying because of how much the Father loves you, that he would use you to influence other people.
Yeah.
And that's an experience of nothing that Christy has done, but what God has done through her, and that he would allow her to experience that. And therefore we receive that as, oh my gosh, you love me so much, God. You so love me, that's where joy comes from. And joy is relational. So I love this stuff.
Can I add to that too?
Yeah.
Because basically what you're describing is, so the knowledge of God is left brain. So that is stuck in the left brain, which is fine. Like, we need to grow in our knowledge, our knowing of God. But what I think the church has missed is this right-brained experience of God, which can only come through encounter with God. And that is the thing that actually forms us in relationship. So the right brain is experiential, here and now. It is where emotion lives. It is where we actually begin to it changes everything that we know in the left brain because we've experienced it. So it's not fact, it's epigenoso. It's knowing beyond knowledge. And last night, I think I'd mentioned this last week in the last episode, when we did an encounter with God, where we do an experiential prayer. I actually bring you into an experience with God. And that's when the computer system went down and I got kicked out. And it's like, there is so much warfare around experiencing the presence of God rather than like understanding facts about him. Like, the enemy knows. I mean, he spouts off facts about God. He knows the word of God. He knows it all, but he knows how dangerous it is for a person to encounter the love of God. And I'm literally going to read some of the testimonies are coming in of what they experienced last night. I'm just going to read one line because this is far too private and personal, but this one line: the gift of this session has blessed me for the rest of my life. Was one line in there. I will return here often. And I thought, that's it. That's the difference of a beautiful woman of God who's grown, knows God, and in one encounter, it can change the rest of your life. And that's what this experience is when we're talking about even joy, where it's moving from a knowledge of who he is to the actual experience of the joy of who he is. That who he is changes everything about us and how we live our life, encounter
and
our
it's
days.
100% relational. It's
It is.
absolutely relational. There's a great book on this, Jim Wilder. I think it's Jim Wilder, The Other Half of Church. And in it, he gives Alan Shore, who's top neuroscience researcher, actually describes and gives a definition for joy. And I thought this is fascinating. And he takes it into the scriptural component of all of this in The Other Half of Church. And it goes to what Christy's talking about between right brain and left brain, that we have turned church into purely the left brain, that it's just about theology, it's just about, intellectual, all that type of thing, as opposed to where character formation and true discipleship happens when we think, feel, and relate at the same time, when we engage the right side of the brain, because the right side of the brain is processing information faster than the left side of the brain. And so what Alan Shore's definition is I'm going to butcher this a little bit, you might have to help me with it, but it's essentially of joy is you walking into a room and being the smile on someone else's face that says, I am glad you are here. I am happy to see you. And it's like you experience the joy. And if you think about that as a kid, if you were so privileged as a kid to have a grandparent, a parent, an aunt and uncle, someone in your life, a teacher, a coach, who every time they saw you, they lit up and they were like, it is so good to see you.
Yeah.
That's where joy truly lives.
The joy center of the brain is triggered when, just like Josh is saying, it's this, I am delighted to be with you. And I just walked in the house because we record
I am delighted to be with you. That's it.
We record 2 sessions, usually back to back. And so I went in to change so it looks like it's another day, mostly just so it doesn't look boring. But so I went inside to change and I walk in and Micah is sitting on the couch and he's like literally waving to me like, hi, Mom. And I was like, bud, that's what he just did. He was like, I'm delighted to be with you, Mom. And I pray that's what we do to our kids, and not this ugh, which I know that I do sometimes, where it's this ugh.
Yeah.
And we talk about that too, the importance of, we have to wrestle with what we would typically call a negative emotion, or the ones that we don't like, in order to access joy. It's not like we have to just be more joyful, beating our heads against a stone wall. That doesn't work. We actually have to go to the depths of ourselves and address the negative emotion in order to access joy. So it is both.
But I also, let me go back, because I want to set the stage for that.
Yeah.
Because I think in order to set the stage for that, you have to be able to have a way to process that uncomfortable emotion.
Yeah.
And, scripturally, it's joy, or the delight, God's delight in us, is very difficult to translate out of the Hebrew. And so a lot of times what ends up happening in Scripture is you will read, especially through the book of Psalms, it'll say God's presence, your presence, Yahweh's presence, his presence. And really if you were to translate that even more, where we could, to make it more meaningful or to make it more accurate rather than his presence. See, we understand it in English as his presence. Translating it more accurately would be his face. Seeing his face, or his face, when you hear, may the Lord bless you and keep you, may his face shine on you. That is his face delighting in you. That true delight is Jesus or the Father, you walking into a room and him just being delighted to see you. That there's no one else. I mean, you take that experience you had as a kid where someone was delighted to see you, and you take that and you multiply that by infinity. That's how much Jesus loves to see you. And that the Father is waiting for you, that he's present with you, that he loves you, that he's fighting for you. And I think so often we miss that. And now when you have that context with uncomfortable or negative emotion, you take that uncomfortable emotion, you take that uncomfortable feeling to that person in God who is delighted to see you. There's no shame, there's no guilt. It is him receiving you, receiving your uncomfortability. Him going, hey, child, you weren't given a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. Remember that. It is him speaking truth about who you are. Though you walk through the valley of shadow of death, you shall fear no evil. I'm with you. I am your rock. I mean, there's just so many scriptures on all of this. This is why it's important to know the scriptures, to be reminded of the scriptures, to internalize those scriptures so that you know that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, that you know that he loves you with an everlasting love, Jeremiah 31, that you experience him and his love for you each and every day. And that is what even this testimony was. There's an experience of love that is so, that just, it leads to joy. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy. When you feel that loved, it leads to joy. And I'll be honest, and I realize that I want to raise joyful kids. And you've heard me say this. If you listen to this podcast on a regular basis, you've heard me say, I want to, my 2 benchmarks are that I am safe enough that my children will bring me their sin voluntarily, that I can walk them through that. And number 2, that they are joyful kids. I think if I get those 2 things right, we're going to raise great kids. But in order for those kids to be joyful, I have to be joyful. I have to experience it. And I lived a part of my life where I wasn't allowing myself to experience the love of God for me because I was living in fear. I was living in the shame, and I was minimizing who I was. I was believing the lies. I wasn't walking in my true identity. And that inhibited my ability to jump on the couch when the Floor is Lava song comes on. And now I am okay with jumping on the couch every now and again when the Floor is Lava song comes on, because our kids need that joy. I need that joy. I got to get back to that inner child.
Or do like snow angels, you know?
In the snow?
In the snow without.
I did that
in shorts.
A few weeks ago.
I know.
I did shorts only.
We were having like sliding competitions through the house, like how far you could, like with socks, like slide.
To be fair, I had just
like
gotten out of a sauna, and then I jumped in the snow and did snow angels.
I'm still proud of you because you hate cold, and that was remarkable.
It was awesome.
I stuck my foot in. That's as much as I could do.
I was actually walking around in bare feet in the snow.
I know.
Which was
like
good.
A hero.
Yeah. It was good.
Like joy. I mean, joy.
Why not?
Why not?
Why wouldn't I?
Why wouldn't you? He was eating sugar, guys. He was eating.
Yeah,
he would go. There was this place called the Mercantile.
Oh, okay? I actually ate a little bit of sugar. I didn't eat as much sugar as you did, but I did eat sugar. Not that we're comparing, but
nobody did.
Nobody ate as much sugar as you.
Guys, it was.
I did not eat a lot of sugar. I had some sugar.
There was this place called the Mercantile, and it was just the most beautiful plethora of treats that you could just go in and just take whatever you want, and it was like literal childhood. Like a candy store. I mean, there's some healthy things too, but we didn't really bother ourselves with those.
I mean, speak for yourself, but
Josh is over there eating like a hard-boiled egg, and we're eating like more Reese's.
Beef jerky and...
It was incredible, but we got our joy back. Okay, but I want to say something to this, okay? We wouldn't have been able to do that. How old's Kennedy? 10 years ago.
100% no way. No way.
9 years ago.
We wouldn't have been able to do that.
And
8 years ago.
And here I want to say this.
7 years ago.
So, fun fact. Your joy capacity has to expand slowly over time. So, do not expect that you are going to be going from where you are right now to snow angels in the snow, sliding competitions. I could keep going. I want to also add, not one drop of alcohol. We do not drink. And so I put a reel together of like our highlights from our super fun trip. And I was like, I bet people are like, oh, they're like drinking. We don't, not one of us drinks. We drink nothing. But
and the people in the restaurant
joy of the
loved
Lord.
It. They loved us.
What? Oh my gosh.
The people in the
they
restaurant
loved us. They were like flabbergasted, that we don't drink, and also how much laughter. Like, I don't know what you guys are laughing about, but I just want to be around you. Like, because we're like, I'm sorry, we're loud. They're like, oh my gosh, never apologize.
Truly
like,
the joy of the Lord.
They were so delighted. They're like, can you guys please come back? It was the sweetest thing. The joy of the Lord spreads, but I just want to say it expands slowly. Joy capacity is a real thing and expands slowly over time, because joy is such an intense emotion that it actually can be too much for the body. So have you ever seen like this swooshy little puppy over here? Okay. This little puppy, you can't see him right now because now he's sleeping over here and he's smooshed up his little
dog
face.
is awesome.
He's literally the best. Sorry, and then our other dog's over here, and I'm like, sorry, Copper.
He's not over there now.
You're great.
He's gone.
Oh, he was there. He's gone. Where did he go?
Gone. He went outside.
Okay.
He's going to frolic. about.
So he's not overhearing us brag about his brother. Anyway, but this little smooshy dog, have you ever seen something that's like so cute that you want to squeeze it? Like you want to, my sister always used the term punt it. Like that baby's so cute, I just want to punt it. Like you just want to, it's called cuteness aggression. And the reason is the experience of joy in your brain is so big that it actually feels like too much. And so what the brain is like, this is too much. I need to like smush it down. Like I literally need to squash it, which I hope that doesn't mean actually injuring the thing, but I kind of wonder if like our primitive brain might kind of think that, like maybe I just kill the thing and then it's not too much for me. We're not going to do that to our babies or our puppies, but you know what that means when you like want to shake something because it's so cute. That is your brain saying this experience of joy is a bit too much. And so just put that on your spectrum of understanding of how big joy is. And this goes back to what we talked about last week about noticing the good. When I said like start really small, I actually mean start really small, because if you try to acknowledge something that's too big, your brain goes offline. It's too much to acknowledge. Like sometimes even, I love you so much. I mean this, I'm reaching out my hand to hold your hand. I love you. It's like with Josh or the kids, I almost can't.
Sometimes you hurt me.
Oh, I do that too. Yeah. I do. That's cuteness aggression. You're so cute. He's so cute. But I can't. I have to go smaller. Like I have to think of something like the dog or something. Like I have to go to something smaller, because to actually acknowledge my gratitude for how good this man is to me and the gift of him in my life. Like see, I go to tears. It's too much. I don't mean tears make it too much, but
tell me more. Can you list those things?
It's your turn this week. I can't imagine life without him. And when that gets so big, like again, the brain it registers as too intense, too much. So like scale it way back. So I can be like thankful for like the joy this plant brings me, because it's smaller, it's less. Even, and what I teach in Tender and Fierce is like we use an exercise called orienting, where you actually look around the room and I will help you like to find a detail. It might be a texture, a pattern, a color. It could be dark against light, allowing your eye to go to something very small and finite. And this is how you start. And you notice that. And we go from there. But you don't start big because you can't. So let your joy capacity grow over time, and let it begin with something really tiny today. Like I experienced joy washing that little puppy. See, maybe it's a bit much because I'm already getting that face and that voice where he's smushed up against his little paws. But if I take it back a notch, I could notice his little white fur or his little toe beans. Oh my gosh, his toe beans.
He's actually awesome.
He's so great. His little toe beans. And I can sit with that for a second, and it's so cute. It's just joyful. I mean, it's nothing, doesn't change my day at all, but it changes everything. And this is what experiencing joy is like. Another example, there is a tissue box right over here, and most of the things in here are brown because this is a very old cabin. And that tissue box is really bright colored, slightly obnoxious, but right now actually it's very joyful if I just focus on like one flower and I notice the colors, and like I actually internalize the experience of seeing that flower on the box, and how does it change me? And these are like very practical things that we actually walk through in Tender and Fierce, where we're focusing inward, outward, where we're actually starting to experience our lives.
And let me talk about it from a male perspective. The male perspective is we feel like we have so much responsibility in our lives that we don't have time for joy.
Yeah.
We don't have time to sit in it. We have too many responsibilities.
Yeah.
And we have
too serious.
Yeah.
Too much to do.
And that's I mean, think about the matrix. Like, let's get out of the matrix, and let's think about what we're being robbed of. As we think about why are we doing what we're doing as families? Where are we being robbed of joy because we're taking life too seriously? We think that we have more responsibility than we do. Whatever it is.
I mean, we do genuinely carry responsibility.
We carry responsibility, but you can actually experience joy in the moment, because what you do looking at that little flower on that side of that ugly tissue box there, is you are having to be in the moment to do that. You're having to leave any sense of responsibility that there's people listening to this podcast right now, that there's kids in the house right now, that there's, any of this kind of stuff. You have to be able to leave that aside. And I think we are so distracted in the matrix that we have an inability to do it.
It brings you to the present moment.
And you have to be able.
The present moment is where joy is.
It's in the present. It's in the right brain.
Yes.
It is in relationship.
Yeah.
It's cultivated in relationship. And this is why, as we talk about these practices of being able to celebrate the good like we did last week, it is what gives you joy. Last week's episode is a precursor to what this week is about. Yeah. Those practices, these practices are what increase joy slowly over time in your life. And we want to be families that look different than the rest of the world. But in order to look different than the rest of the world, to be salt and light, to live with joy, to celebrate the good, we have to start making decisions that give us the joy. And you have to start to rewire your brain to be able to sit and look at the very things that bring you joy without being distracted by your phone, without being distracted by, and some of you are going, well, I got kids. Yes, you're going to get distracted by your kids. That's 100% true. But my daughter said this to me yesterday. Great mirror. She said, Dad, you teach us to not interrupt. So what happened was the kids heard me speak. I spoke at a company, at a chapel, at a local company, and I took my kids with me, and they heard me speak, and they heard me tell a story they'd never heard me tell before, and my daughter was asking me questions. So we're getting into the truck, and she's asking me questions about that story. Dad, tell me about this story, and in the midst of that, I get in the truck and I pick up my phone and I see I have text messages from Christy and someone else. And I start looking at what the text message said. And she asked me a question and she said, Dad, you teach us not to interrupt, but the phone interrupts. And I was like, what are you talking about? She said, well, you teach us not to interrupt you guys, but yet you allow the phone to interrupt us when we're asking you a question. Whoa. And I was like, dang, right there.
Ouch.
So great point. And so I put my phone down and I made a mental note to stop allowing my phone to interrupt me to interrupt a conversation that I'm having with my children.
Mm-hmm. And what about your wife?
And my wife.
You don't do that.
Actually, I probably, I don't know if you want to go in that route. I don't think you want to go down that trade. We have to, in order to experience joy, my whole point of this is we have to turn the phones off. And it's not even the phones necessarily. It is, what are the things that are distracting you from experiencing the moment? And so often we turn to the phone because it placates everything else in our life. It's like mindless activity. Mm-hmm. This is what television shows do, right? We binge watch television shows. It's escapism. Yeah. And you're not truly experiencing full joy when you get done with whatever it is that you were experiencing. And
I'll translate that. It's numbness. So it's a need to go emotionally numb because it's too much. So you're hitting the bottom rung of that.
I've become so numb. Yeah. I can't feel you there.
Is that
Linkin Park? That was wow. It was back in the day.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Babe.
I always said I can't sing, but maybe I do have a calling in it.
Maybe you do. I mean, we know some people. I mean, we could get you a position as left triangle.
As left triangle. I'd make a good left triangle. I played percussion growing up. I could do triangle.
I offer my services. I'm like, hey,
I played cowbell. I played triangle.
I could do a mean cowbell.
I do a mean cowbell.
I should suggest. Ding, 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 I haven't been offering cowbell. That's what I need to start offering. I could do cowbell.
Yeah. You just have to keep rhythm,
I mean,
we're experiencing true joy right now. Christy playing a cowbell.
Gosh, this feels right.
And again, I don't want to say this in shame. I want to be gracious in this and merciful in this, as Christy was last week but it has to start somewhere. And you have to ask yourself the question of where you are robbing yourself of joy because you're distracted and you're escaping.
And I just want to say, for those of you, I mean, I'm just going to say this. If you feel the shame and that must be nice for you, I really wish, and you feel a drawing, like, please, if you're a female, sign up for Tender and Fierce.
And if you're a male, sign up for the field experience. Because I just had a guy yesterday say to me, hey, this is the first time that I have not felt shame in my walk with God. And I'm like, this is amazing. We want you to do this.
I'm just saying, because I get it. Like, I get it, where you're like, that sounds great, but how? And this is exactly why we're doing it.
This is why we're doing these things. We want you to live free. We want your family to live free.
And you can.
And we have, we've tried so many different things through the years in terms of helping families, and we have found this to be the single greatest opportunity and way of doing it, at least with as big as we are and the limited staff that we have and the ability to do this. This is the best way. And, we would love for you to be a part of it, man, because we'd love the journey with you. I genuinely mean that. These relationships that we're building. And again, joy is relational. Like, you can't live and lead your family and be alone. And so many families, parents are living and feeling alone in their journeys. And we want to take that aloneness away to say, hey, here's a community of people that you can that are going, yes, me too. I'm the same way, and I want to be set free. So
with the need, and our background is counseling. Like, I care for the hurt places of people, the wounded places. Like, it's not dismissing the pain. It's actually attending to it and attuning to it. Like, healing that place first, because you're not going to get there until you do. And so I just wanted to add that caveat. Like, we're not just like bulldozing. It's exactly the opposite of what we're doing. Because you will get those, like, where it's just like positive mindset, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff is just bulldozing a nervous system that's already feeling overlooked, dismissed, wounded, and in pain. And it needs attention and attunement and healing.
And my spiritual gift is mercy giver, and yet I'll enter in and I will show you mercy, but I will also call you higher. And that's where we're at.
You're actually really good at that.
Thank you.
My gift is not mercy, and yet the Lord has given me mercy in this area to like a degree I've never experienced before.
I love it.
And then we had, like, last week's session was called The Great Exchange, where it's like, and I told him this is the turning point, and now we turn, because it's this movement from self-protection to actually sitting under the protection of God, and then everything changes. And then you're able to access places you haven't been able to.
So as you listen to this episode, sign up. They're in the show notes. Tender and Fierce Field Experience. Register now. It's cohort 2 coming up starting in April. And the other thing I'd love for you to do is you leave here today, think about the most useful takeaway for you. And what was that most useful takeaway? But in the midst of that, I want you to think about what you carry for your kids and your spouse. The idea that when they walk into a room, do they experience your delight in seeing them and being able to be delighted when they walk into the room and you see them? But that starts in one place, and that's you experiencing the delight of the Father for you.
Until next week, I pray your heart is awakened and your family sees revival.
Go live in joy, and may you find your way home.
All the fear